Welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for being here. I very much appreciate it. So this little video, we're going to talk about flossing. There are many types of floss, and I'm going to show you the correct technique. I'm going to show you poor technique, and I'm going to show you what I think is the best type of floss to purchase. First things first is when you floss, you'll see in this picture, this is not the proper flossing technique. Notice first, I'm wrapping it around my index fingers. This is showing, this is not correct. You don't want to wrap it around your index fingers. You don't get the control that you need. This also dragging it from side to side across the mouth. You cannot access under the gum tissue properly. Flossing is extremely technique sensitive to be correct. You always want to wrap a string of floss, and you want to get a string, they usually say about the length of your arm, which this one is about half the length of my arm, and it's not big enough in my opinion. It just needs to be a little bit bigger. It's probably to like the middle of your bicep. But you always want to wrap it around your middle finger. You always want to wrap it around your middle finger, okay? So this way, when you have the floss, this is what your fingers look like. Then you bend these, and you have your index fingers and your thumbs to control the floss, okay? This is so much easier to control this. You always wrap more around one middle finger and less around the other middle finger to unwind clean floss and wind up dirty floss. And then you're ready to roll. Now we're getting into improper flossing. So if you notice, the floss is simply going in between my teeth. It doesn't even come close to my gum line. This is fine and effective if you're using a water pick, because the water pick is accessing the pockets under the gum tissue. If you're not using a water pick, you will have gingivitis and bleeding gums, and this will be tender and it will hurt. So now as we transition and go into proper flossing, now you'll see how the floss goes under the gum tissue, hugs the tooth, because you're rubbing and cleaning the tooth. You're not cleaning the gum. So you can see how that floss is wrapped. I'm pushing on the back side with the floss and pulling on the front to get it to wrap like a C around. Then I come down over the gum tissue and come on the other side and clean the other tooth, go down up under the gum tissue, wiggling nice and slightly, and go underneath the gum all the way up as far as I can until, yes, it is a little bit tender. This is cleaning correctly. This is proper flossing. So I'm pulling the floss now, which would be to my, I think it would be my left, and going up under that gum tissue, and I'm not far enough right there, but now I'm going to go up underneath. There's where it's proper. So you see how far the floss goes under the gum. This is proper flossing right here. We're going to pull the floss down and out, and then we're going to continue on. So yeah, I may have skipped a tooth or two, but again, see how far I go up under the gum to access, and I'm just pulling and pushing back and forth. So I'm trying to make this easy so you could see. So there we go, down. See how far down that goes underneath the gum? This is a little blurry, but you can see I'm only putting the floss just straight in between the teeth. I'm not hugging either tooth. I'm not going under the gum tissue here. So this is another demonstration of improper flossing until I then pull the floss forward and floss, and then go push it back and go down under and hug. These are killer faces I'm making. So again, incorrect flossing, not accessing under the gum tissue far enough, not cleaning the root surface of the tooth. Now again, correct flossing, going up all the way under the gum until the gum is a little bit tender, coming down and around the tissue and going up and under the other tooth. And one more time here for demonstration purposes, incorrect into correct flossing. So again, see how far down I can go. Bacteria gets trapped down here, and if you don't floss correctly, this is how you continue to have gingivitis or periodontal disease and your gums bleed. So incorrect is right here. You're just sitting in the middle. until you get down underneath and hug either side of the tooth. So on this slide, I have an implant on my one tooth. So I go on the back side of it, then I come around the front. So I'm hooking the floss all the way around it, crisscrossing it, and then basically seesawing the floss back and forth to get under that crown to clean all underneath it extremely well. Let's talk about types of floss. All right, so there's multiple different kinds on the market. There's multiple different types. Everybody's favorite is this. I hate this stuff. Number one, let me tell you why. It's coated in Teflon. So what does that mean? It makes it super slick. Well, guess what? As slick as it is, and as many times as I hear, my teeth are so tight, I can't get floss through there. This stuff slips right through there and barely removes anything. I have seen chunks of food in people's teeth where I have had, this has been the only floss that I've had available to me at the moment, and I'll go in there and I can't get it out. And I'm literally like scooping and going around the tooth, and I can't get the piece of debris out because this just slips right over it. So I know people love this because it slides in your teeth real easy, but I hate this stuff. I hate Glide. I hate anything that is super slick, super slippery, easy glide, whatever it is. I hate them because I don't think they work. I believe in a waxed floss or a little bit thicker floss, okay? So Johnson & Johnson, Reach, they make this waxed floss. I'm pretty confident I bought it at my local Dollar Tree. So I bought 2 of them because I keep this in my travel kit whenever I travel. And it's just waxed floss. This is the floss that I use every day in my practice. We order waxed floss on a spool. I have like 200 yards on a spool, and this is what I use. Why? Texture. It's got a little grippy to it. It goes between the teeth. Is it a little tougher? Yeah, but again, practice. And if you suck at this, stop using it. Get a water pick. End of story, okay? So this stuff has a little bit of texture to it. That's why I like it. It's a little bit thicker, but it grabs the debris. I'll show you these side by side. So this is Glide, and this is the waxed. So there, Glide and waxed. So you could tell the Glide is wider, it's fatter, and the waxed is thinner, but it's more rounded. Just a little bit, not much, just a little bit. But it's just got more of that look to it, okay? But it has more of the grippiness, the texture. So now another one of my favorite flosses, which actually I have a gigunda spool of, is Cocoa Floss. So this stuff, I believe they sell at Target. They do sell it online. I'm like uber fan. So this is even more rounded so. So this is a piece. It gets puffy. So it's coated in coconut oil. It's super mild flavored. They have a bunch of different flavors like strawberry and orange and mint. I think even at the holidays, they may have like chocolate mint or stuff like that. So I've only ever used the mint and the orange I thought would be bad, but it's so mild. It's good stuff. So you can kind of tell right here where it's like a little thicker and then a piece I didn't use is a little bit thinner. So this, because it's coated, not with Teflon, with a little coconut oil, it's got a little slick to it. But once it goes into the mouth and gets a little wet, it expands some. So it grabs things. And I do believe it's a little bit softer than even the waxed floss that I use. So as a comparison, this is what these 3 look like together, but separate. So the Cocoa Floss isn't much different than the waxed in diameter and stuff, but you can tell the Glide's just wider. It's super thin, it's just wider. Some people call this dental tape. I don't like dental tape either because, again, I don't ever use it. It's so wide, I can't get it in between people's teeth. So I know there's a lot of people that buy dental tape, and the ones that buy it and use it, they love it. And God bless you, because I can't use it. I can't get in between the teeth because every time I go, if the tape's not straight up and down, it folds and I can't get in between the teeth. So again, this is my favorite Cocoa Floss, which is what I'm using when I demo these. So this is my all-time favorite. Now there's also things as floss called floss picks. So floss picks, again, I get these at Dollar Tree. They do have them at Walmart and Target, but these are Plackers. It's my favorite brand. The floss doesn't break. I can buy a pack of these for $1 at Dollar Tree, and I usually go in there and buy between 4 and 6 packs at a time. I always have one in my car, my purse, my travel bag. Pretty much everywhere I go, I have these with me, because if I get something stuck in my teeth, I want to be able to get it out. So I like these. This is a twin line. There's 2 pieces of floss between here. Again, you can just get like a waxed floss on these and they'll be fully sufficient and work extremely well for you. So they have a slick, super slippy, like Teflon coated kind. I don't buy those. I don't like them. So this one is the double floss. It's got a little pick on here if you wanted to bend it down and actually pick at your teeth. But these, you can sit and watch TV and floss your teeth. You can be at the movie theater, which, yeah, to some people it's gross. You can drive your car, okay? They take one hand. They don't take your fingers in your mouth. You don't have to shove whatever on your fingers in your mouth, you know, because we've all learned in the last 2 years, like, why you shouldn't put your fingers in your mouth and touch the world and then touch your mouth. But that's why I like these the best, because of convenience on the go. I do this driving my car all the time. You know, I'll have breakfast and then drive to work, and I'll be flossing my teeth on the way to work because I'll have stuff stuck in my teeth and it's going to drive me nuts. So I'll use these. Like I said, always in my car, purse, traveling, whatever, because they're just convenient. It's convenient. So this is the other thing you have to remember, that these things have to be convenient. No, a water pick isn't convenient. You have to use that in your bathroom, which I preach. Again, you'll hear me say it 1,000 times. But if you're looking for convenience and a quick fix, these are awesome for you to substitute, so that it just makes it easier for you to get some floss in between your teeth. But this is going to be the same technique sensitive for flossing as it is for a string to these. You still have to get it down under the gum tissue, right? And you still have to not cut your gum tissue. So those are the main things to remember. So the technique doesn't change. It's just how it is. Now these also come like this. See this? How the floss is parallel to the handle. So when you're in the back, this handle needs to come out of the side of your mouth. I mean, I guess you could go across your mouth, but it's actually kind of hard. So I stick it in my cheek like that. And I will sometimes bite my teeth together to get it in between. Because with any floss, you don't want to snap it in between your teeth. You never want to snap it in there and force it. You either wiggle it back and forth, or these, I do gently guide with my lower teeth. Same thing on the bottom. Now, when we're flossing your teeth at the dentist, you don't want to bite down because you're actually biting our fingers, and then I can't manipulate the floss. So when you're doing these by yourself, yes, you can bite down. But when you're flossing with the string, you don't want to bite down, and you don't want to bite down on our fingers at the office because you're not helping me. You're actually making it worse. And I do have people that'll do that. I'll be flossing their teeth and they're moving their jaw all over the place, and I can't even floss correctly because they're, so the top I can do all right. The bottom, they start moving, and I'm like, I have so much practice at this. I do this about 8 times a day to different people. I've done it for 21, 22 years now. So when you do this enough and you practice it all the time, you pretty much master it. So yeah, really good with the floss. You take your pick, you know, you kind of pick your poison. And it's either going to be a string and floss, these, or a water pick. Now, if you have more advanced gum disease, or if you have periodontal disease in general, period, I don't care, these will not work for you. Neither will the floss. It's not going to be fully effective. Why? Because as you can see when I demo to you, the floss is only going to reach so far down under the gum tissue, okay? Realistically, this is only going to reach about 3 millimeters under the gum tissue, where the water pick, like I say before, it's going to reach 7, 8, 9, 10 millimeters under the gum tissue, okay? The other thing is our teeth are curved. So if you've had bone loss, and you might be able to get this in between your teeth a little bit further than someone who doesn't have bone loss, you're still going to miss parts of the teeth and not clean it correctly, because this is a string, straight, flat, they can't get over the tooth and the curvatures, which I'm going to show you. So I want you to keep that in mind. If you've had periodontal probing done, which every one of you should have every 6 months to once a year by your hygienist, if you don't know what your perio pocket numbers are, you need to ask, and you need to see if they're checking them. If they're not checking them, nobody is accurately checking the health of your mouth then, and you don't know how healthy or not it is. So if your pockets are 4 millimeters, between 1 and 4 millimeters, you're pretty much healthy. You could use floss and be okay to maintain your mouth. If you've got 5, 6s, 7s and above, you really should be using a water pick. So let me show you what I mean about the curve and the floss. Okay, this is my favorite tooth to use. So if we look at this model, this is your canine. I'm going to the first premolar, which is right behind it. So I'm going to take this out of there, and I'm going to show you this. So here's our tooth, okay? So that's your premolar. This would be looking at it from the side. This is the side that faces your tongue. This would be the side that faces your cheek, okay? So when I turn this to look at the side of it where you would floss naturally, there's a concavity right there, okay? So if you look down the side of this thing, it's got 2 roots, and you can see there's a concavity right there, okay? So if you had a string of floss underneath here, well, guess what? That string of floss is not going to reach into that concavity. This is why flossing can be ineffective, okay? It's just, it goes over it. It doesn't bend in there, it doesn't expand. I don't care what thick floss you use. It'll help, but it won't expand and get into that concavity 100%, okay? So this is why I say the water pick's more effective, because it's going to use that air, water pressure, get in all around here, because the water flows, creates the siphon, and sucks all the junk out. So it'll suck it out and pull it down. So if you went in between here, even so, you got to get, to floss. If you have healthy teeth and gums, you're going to floss to about right there. And that's sufficient. You'll come out and go down, come out and go down. Okay? But if you have to try to get any deeper down in here, if you have like a 5, 6 millimeter pocket and our probe goes down to that deep, this floss ain't going to reach down there. You have gum tissue that gets in the way and everything. Like, you're not going to reach down there. So when you floss, and again, this is another thing that you need to recognize. Do you see how this tooth comes out? Every one of our teeth come out and then taper down. So they touch the tooth next to it. So this point right here where this floss is sitting, which would be right there, is going to touch the tooth next to it. That's called the contact point. This is where a ton of cavities happen, right in between here. The interproximal, which is the technical term, interproximal part of the teeth where it touches the tooth next to it. So if you use a water pick and you go, I still want to floss, this is the part that you still should or could floss and just clean. Rub this tooth, then you come over and you rub the tooth next to it, okay? So what you need to remember when I demo what I'm doing with floss, I don't care if it's a string or not, you go underneath and you hug this tooth, you come down and you hug this tooth. So you go in between and you hug. Oh, I'm pulling the tooth out. And you hug, okay? Each tooth touches the tooth next to it at the contact point. Now these teeth, again, it's a model, they're not perfect. They have space in between. But most people have contact points from one tooth to the next. So that's what you just got to keep these things in mind, what's fully effective and what's not. Because again, if you get a piece of Glide or Teflon coated floss, super slick, that's just like doing nothing. So a lot of people will floss and they'll just do this. Well, that's not doing shit. You got to rub this tooth, and you got to rub this tooth and this tooth and this tooth. That's what gets the stuff off the teeth, the mechanical rubbing, the mechanical rubbing, the mechanical rubbing. So if that's not happening, that's not correct, okay? So again, you can use these at your convenience. I could care less, but you still have to use them in the same way that they still have to rub and hug, and think that the floss has to rub around the tooth and hug it like a C. So one thing to remember, if these are your back teeth, you're going to push towards the back of your mouth. You'll come up and over the gum tissue, and you're going to pull to the front of your mouth. And then you go in between these teeth and you push to the back and you come up and pull to the front. Because I have a lot of people that'll go in, they actually cut their gum tissue and they're just like willy-nilly in this. This floss has to touch this tooth the entire time or it's ineffective. It's ineffective. For the basics of flossing and the keys, and again, personally what I recommend and personally what I've seen the result of. So I still have tons of people that use Glide. I do recommend for them to change, and I normally get the answer of, well, I just can't fit it through my teeth. Like my teeth are just so tight. And, you know, again, I do have a lot of practice, so I use the wax floss and I can pop through some people's teeth. I mean, the ones that tell me that, I can whip through them pretty easily. There are very, very few people that I have a hard time flossing, and I will tell them, you are so right. You need the slippery stuff, because my fingers will turn purple and I can get the floss practically stuck between their teeth. So I've seen it happen. It's not often. It's not the norm. The norm is usually you can use a wax floss on almost every single person that I come in contact with. There may be one every 6 months that I have a hard time with waxed floss. And that's not a lot. That's a very minimal number. If this helps. If not, of course, feel free to ask questions. You can always email me at teacher@gmail.com. I will link these flosses below in the description box so that if you want to look into purchasing any of them, particularly the Cocoa Floss and the Reach, I'll find links for both and you can look into those. You could just find plain Jane generic waxed floss at your local store, and that will be fully sufficient because this Reach is pretty generic. They had one, I can't even remember what it was called now. We had samples at our office, but it was 2 pieces of floss that were wound together. It was white and blue that Reach made. It was the best floss ever. It had texture to it. It was thick. You could pull it to get it thin, and then when you relax on it, it gets thicker again. They stopped making it. It's the greatest floss ever, and they stopped making it, which is such a bummer. But like I said, this works really good. I use this every day in practice. So, and I have it in my travel bag. At home, if I floss, I do use Cocoa Floss at night. And then of course on the go, I use my Plackers. So those are the brands. Those are the things I like. They're inexpensive, but they work. And like I said, with the floss picks, the Dentec brand, I didn't like the handle. It was really tiny. For me, it was really hard to hold on to the handle to get the floss between my teeth, and the floss broke. I went through like 3 or 4 of those in my mouth, and I usually just use one. So I didn't like that. I'm not a big fan of the Dentec brand, and I haven't used any other brand because, again, I don't like Crest floss. So I found the Plackers from a hygienist I used to work with a few years ago, and I've never looked back. They've been the greatest things ever because they do make a good floss. They do make a good handle. It's not difficult for you to hold on to, and the floss doesn't break. So those are my tips for flossing. So I hope this helps you all. Thank you again so much for being here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.